Joining us now, Mr. Silver Lining himself, Congressman from Southwest Virginia, District 9, Republican Morgan Griffith. Congressman, great to have you.
It's good to be with you this morning.
Hey, there's your dog in the background. He's excited to hear me.
He is.
All right, Congressman, so you're home. Your wife is home, right? Now, how does that work? Are judges at home also? How does that work?
Well, they're on a rotating basis. She's on call to go down for an emergency, and then they're rotating. She and one of the other judges are rotating who is going to be there at certain times. So there's always somebody there. In fact, she is heading out this morning to court just to monitor. They're not doing anything but emergency cases, but as you might imagine, she's a juvenile and domestic relations district judge.
Right.
And sometimes you have emergencies. If a kid needs services, services may not be available, but we can at least get the kid to a safe place.
I hope your wife Hillary is not listening now, because the last time I brought her up on the radio, she got mad at me and said she didn't want to be mentioned. So hopefully she's not hearing me. But Hillary, we're talking about you on the radio, so you just have to deal with it. Now, let's get to the coronavirus package. A lot of small businesses very concerned about the governor's order to shut businesses down through June 10th. I talked to Rob Whitman about this. I talked to Clark Mercer a few minutes ago. I've had probably 50 small business owners in the last 24 hours tell me they can't make it to June 10th. With the stimulus or without the stimulus, they're going to have to shut down. How do we deal with this?
Well, and that's a good question. June 10th is a long way out, hopefully, and the governor did say that he could lift that at any time if they saw that the curve had been bent and that we were doing better. Nobody knows when that's going to, when we're going to have the data to establish that. I'm hoping that we've already started to bend it. But it's a difficult decision, both for the governor and for everybody else. It's hard. You just don't know, is this effective? Is this not effective? How strict should we be? There's some hot areas that obviously everybody ought not even go outside. There are other areas where, and sometimes they can be just miles apart. The other areas where there's not nearly as great a contagion, but this stuff is spreading. We don't know how. A friend of mine in South Carolina's wife has it currently. She seems to be doing okay, but she's got a high fever. They have no idea how she got it. They have no idea where she was exposed. Now the whole house is on quarantine. And so, it is a, we're going to be spending years studying it. The good news is I got word late last night from our team at the Energy and Commerce Committee. Jen Barblin, who's a committee staffer there, sends us out a daily update. And the FDA is working with, or not the FDA. The FDA is getting some medications online ready for trials for treatment. But Johnson & Johnson and BARDA, that's a group that works on coming up with different treatments and vaccines, et cetera, are combining, and they believe that they will have a vaccine ready for human trials by September, and probably by the first of next year in emergency cases. Now, they didn't say what emergency cases are, but I'm going to interpret that as, places where there's a nursing home where somebody has contracted the disease, or other areas where people are in close proximity and you really can't move them, that you can go in there with this emergency vaccine. But that's far ahead of schedule. And, while September seems like a long way off, and for these businesses, June 10th is forever.
Right.
We do have some signs that, our scientists are working hard in the medical arena to shorten that time up. But hopefully we'll see some improvement, and the governor can lift that before June 10th. Because you're right, that we've already, lost. I'm not able to travel the district like I usually do, but I get reports daily, and we've already lost some businesses who probably were marginal to begin with, but who've just said, no, closing, done, can't.
Yeah, because what happens when you, and this is what I tried to tell Clark Mercer. I mean, I kind of got the, let's do June 10th, and if it's earlier, then we're ahead of schedule. Here's the problem with that. People have to plan. If your business is on the edge and you say, okay, I can borrow money, I can get through April, and now you're looking at June 10th, it's like there's just no way, so they close it now. I mean, they just have to make financial decisions for them and their families, and then you just can't open them back up again. They're gone. They don't pay rent, mortgage, et cetera. They let it get foreclosed on, or they go to their bank and they can't make good on their loan, they claim bankruptcy. All that stuff comes into play. And that's why I don't think the June 10th date was thought through from a small business perspective. It was maybe thought through for average people, don't go to the beach or whatever, but I don't think it was thought through. And that's really what the risk is. Now, the president said April 30th. Congressman, as you look at the numbers coming in, what is your best case scenario of when we so-called bend the curve or flatten it out that we can get back to business, sir?
Well, I think April 30th is a date that we should hope for. I'm not going to tell people that it's definitely going to happen. I'm hoping that by April 15th we'll see that we'll have enough data to say, okay, we've turned the corner. And then I do think you probably ought out on a couple of weeks just to make sure that we don't get a second bounce. Right. Because the worst thing that could happen is that you reopen everything up and then you have to close it all down again. And I'm not sure how, as a society and economically, how we handle that.
So, Congressman, what is the metric for turning the corner?
Well, I'm hoping the scientists will tell us that. I've been looking for that answer. But I think what you have to see is, just as a general rule, you have to see the number of new cases, and we now have like 100,000 tests a day that can be done, so we're catching up on that side of it. But you have to see that the number of new cases has started to drop. And that's when I think you can tell that we've turned the corner, when there's sufficient testing and cases start to drop, and you can see, not just a little drop, but a precipitous drop in the number of new cases.
So not the percentage, the hard number, because obviously as you do more testing, you're going to get more cases. So you're saying the hard number has to go down, not the percentage.
I think that's right, because you are going to see more. The hard number needs to be going down in that direction, and that'll give us some idea of where we're at. And I think that, and I've always been a big believer in trying to do this a little more targeted. I think in hot spots where, if you see that it's not being reduced in Missouri, that doesn't mean you necessarily need to keep all the businesses closed in Virginia.
Right.
And so we need to take a look at that and make sure that we're looking at it from a regional perspective. We have, just within the last week, our first cases in Southwest Virginia, and we've had our first fatality over the weekend. Mm-hmm. So we're behind the rest of the state in that regard. We probably could have kept schools open a week later. Maybe we need to keep our businesses closed a week longer. It just depends on what the data is showing us. And right now we're not a hot spot, but we do have cases, so we have to be careful.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We are with Congressman Morgan Griffith, Republican from the 9th District of Virginia from Salem. Congressman, let's get to the stimulus package. Everybody understands, okay, if I make under $75,000, I'm getting a check or direct deposit for $1,200 a person. If, as a couple, I made joint filed under $150,000, I'm getting $1,200 each, plus $500 a child, so I have a family. If I have 2 children, I'm going to get $3,400. Everybody understands that. It's pretty clear. If you make up to $198, you'll get less. Over $198, you're not getting anything. And if you make over $99 as a single filer, you don't get anything. That's pretty clear. People get that. The small business aspect of it, I can't get a straight answer from anybody. Nobody knows what it is, how it's going to be done, if our independent contract is included. Is it payroll from 2018, payroll from 2019? Is there a factor? No one knows. When is this information to small businesses actually going to become available?
All right, let me look this up for you. And I put you on speakerphone.
Speaker's fine, sir.
I got this yesterday. All right. Independent contractors, I do know, can get it. For non-seasonal businesses, the maximum loan amount for payroll and operating costs is 2.5 times the average monthly payroll costs over the previous year before the loan is made. So, in essence, 2.5 times your payroll and basically your overhead in the previous year. You're going to have to document that, probably with taxes. There will be some people who cheat We'll have to go after them later. But in the short run, speakerphone, in the short run, that's the test, and you can get a loan, and the money is not sufficient to cover every business, so the sooner you get the loan, the better. Now, while it is administered through the SBA, and I don't know if they have all the regs ready yet, but any FDIC-insured bank can act as an agent on behalf of the SBA. This is what Mnuchin told us before the package was passed, and they're working on that, and they may already have it out. But the banks have to apply for a waiver through the SBA, and then they're certified basically as agents of the SBA, and they get a fee, so it helps the local bank for the loan from the federal government to process the loan. And so the bank gets a little bit of money, and the merchant can get some ability. Now, that loan has to be repaid if you don't keep paying your employees. But if you pay your employees during the time of this crisis, just as if everything was going along normal, that loan will be forgiven at the end of the term.
Let's just get this straight. And thank you for doing this, Congressman, because there's a lot of small business owners I have that have been tuning me and asking me. They don't understand it. What does it mean? How do they plan? So here's basically what the Congressman is saying. If you operate a small business anywhere, Virginia obviously goes along with that. If you filed your taxes already for 2019 and they're filed, then you're going to go on 2019. If you've not filed 2019 because you have an extension or you just haven't done that, then it's got to go on 2018. It's got to go on whatever the most recent tax you've filed. So 18 or 19, you're going to take your average monthly cost over the 12 months, your average payroll and operating costs, which I believe, sir, include utilities and rent. The question is, a lot of companies pay independent contractors. Is that included? Or is that gray?
I don't know the answer.
Tough one.
I don't think the independent contractors are covered under that business. They would be covered perhaps under their own business because usually independent contractors are seen as a separate business.
Right, so they can get their own loan or they can file for unemployment. So that's coming down, not up. So if you own a business now, you take your average monthly payroll cost on 18 or 19, depending on if you filed your 19 taxes, rent, utilities, or mortgage utilities, you take 2.5 times that, which is monthly times 2.5. That's your amount of the loan. That can be forgiven if you maintain that payroll during the period of the loan.
That is correct.
And they're going to make it so that you apply through your bank. It'll then be backed by the SBA. So if we can get out of this by May, I mean, for a lot of businesses, that's going to be the saver right there. And the thing that I really like about what they did, Congressman, I lived through 2008. Nobody can hold a candle to me on that. I lost my business, my home, everything I had. I had a 3-year-old, and Ann and I ended up for 2 years homeless, living in an extended stay hotel, paying week to week and day to day. So I understand this. The last time this happened, so I don't mean to get upset. I even hate thinking about it. But the last time the money went to the banks and it was supposed to trickle down, it never made it down. This time, the money is bubbling up. So the object is you get a loan, you pay your employees. Your employees then pay their rent, they pay their utilities, they pay their credit cards. You get the money for the loan, you pay your mortgage, that keeps the banks whole. You pay your rent, which then allows your landlord to pay their bank, right? So the difference is this is bottom up, not top down. Is that a fair way of explaining it?
That is fair. I will tell you something else that's more fair about this. This is brought on by a virus. This was not somebody making bad business decisions and plunging the economy into a problem. This is something that nobody could have prevented, at least not in the United States, and now we have to deal with it. The average citizen has been asked by the government to, sometimes close their business or to stay at home, and, we're dealing with kids not always wanting to do their classwork like they're supposed to. Everybody's having to deal with that. And so in this case, one can make an argument that previously it was bad decisions by big banks that they claimed were too big to fail. Here, it's a virus that's affecting every household and every family, and nobody made a bad decision. And so it is the government's role, I think, to come in and say, okay, we've asked you to stay home so that we have fewer deaths and fewer people with serious problems, and therefore the government has an obligation for the benefit of all the people to try to help bail out the small businesses and the average family, and that's what we're doing. Now, hopefully people will spend their money and get these businesses back running when we can reopen all the stores.
Randy in Hanover says, what about young people? My son didn't start working until 2019. He just got laid off. Your son would be eligible for unemployment if he got laid off due to the virus, due to the closing of things, and he would be eligible for the $325 a week that Virginia unemployment pays, and up to an additional $600 a week funded by the federal government. So for a 4-month period, your son would be eligible for up to $900. Also, Terry in Ashland said, John, do people on Social Security and disability get the $1,200? The answer is if they made under $75,000, they will. Doesn't matter how old you are. If you're on Social Security and you didn't have other income and you made under $75,000, you will get a direct deposit just like your Social Security for $1,200 sometime in April. I think I'm accurate on that, aren't I, Congressman?
You are correct. That is correct. Absolutely.
All right, so I got a pretty good handle on this. Look, if you own a small business, the most important thing is if you've not filed your 2019 taxes as of now, you've got to go on 2018, and you're going to be able to work through your local bank. So whatever bank you have a checking account there, you have some kind of a relationship with your bank, that's going to be where you're going to apply if you choose to do that, and there'll be some paperwork to fill out. But I know that the Secretary of the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, is working on an expedited application form that's going to be under 2 pages. 1 page is the goal. I don't think they'll get there, but it might be 2 pages. But it certainly is not going to be like going on the SBA website and spending 9 hours on it. So,
well, and that was one of the concerns that he reassured all of us in Congress. The SBA can't handle it, so that's why we're turning it over and basically deputizing the local banks. Any bank that's FDIC insured will be able to act as an agent for the SBA and make this process fast, because we have to wait 3 months. It doesn't do us any good.
I got to tell you what, Congressman, I really appreciate your time today. I've got so many people that listen to our show that are worried about their business, their future, and not understanding exactly what the rules are. So you went a long way in explaining that, sir, and thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Have a good day.